Alright, my name's Matt and I'm a real alcoholic, and this is what we're going to do is I'm going to interview Shelby. This
Hello.
is Shelby. And what we're doing is we're trying to open people up, parents, kids, children, friends, relatives, whatever it is, whatever situation it is. And what was your situation with you that was a downfall?
My situation was at 4 years old. I was violently raped by a neighbor. Growing up, I was told I was fat, ugly, worthless. You're never going to amount to anything. At 8 years old, I was in the bathroom for 2 hours with a knife to my wrist, thinking of how to end my life. Nothing is going right.
Let me stop you right there. When you was 4, did you feel like that was your fault?
Yes.
So you carried that so-called guilt and shame
Until
you was
probably
8, and then you put the...
It went on after I was 8. I don't know what. I do know God stopped me from killing myself at 8 years old.
But when you was 4, though, see, that's a very, very dramatic experience. And the younger we are, when something is so catastrophic, we carry that longer.
Yeah.
So, carrying this so-called guilt and shame, what were some things that you did to try to cover up, even though it wasn't your fault, to cover up that feeling? Do you understand?
Always try to be happy. Always reared back from people. Anytime any kissing scene or anything like that, passionate scene would come on the TV, I would always just try to block out
Cringe.
And
you had to sit through that
I did.
for years. And watching the TV, something that
would just pop on,
right.
you know.
Well, it's a scene in movies. It's in commercials.
You know, my parents never did let me watch X rated or
Right.
R-rated movies, but you have movies that are PG that people share a kiss with or whatever, and to me that was always just there.
Yeah. Well, the early horrible mishap that you went through, you know, it's horrible that women and men too have to go through something like that.
Yeah.
But it also too created another identity probably in you too, right?
Yeah.
So now you're living 2 separate identities,
I'm
right?
having to live the happy girl always.
Mask.
Nothing went wrong. Everything is fine in my world. To I'm literally falling apart, wanting to end it all.
Now, did you isolate when you was younger? Let's say when you got to 8, when you put that to your wrist. Do you remember that vaguely?
I remember it so much. I remember going into the bathroom.
What was the driving point to that? If you can remember the build up to it? You know, there has to be a build up to where you click in that head, the decision.
This is it.
Yeah. If you can remember, if you can't, don't, you know.
It was being told you never will amount to anything. You're worthless. You're fat. You're ugly. And dealing with still the rape happening.
Mm-hmm.
It just
kept piling on.
And I remember going into the bathroom one night, going into the kitchen, grabbing a knife, finding the biggest one I could find.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the bathroom, locking the door, and just holding the knife to my wrist, about ready to slice down for 2 hours, sitting in the corner.
And before you did that, I'm sure you had a mask on, right?
Yeah.
Talking to people, saying, I'm just fine.
I'm fine. Everything is great.
And they're all out there conjugating and everything, and
Yeah.
you're in the bathroom going through years of torment, putting a knife to your wrist. You know, and then after this, what was it? Food? Was that an outlet?
Food was always an emotional way for me to
Feel better?
deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, I can either go between let me emotional eat, which now I love food.
Yeah.
But I either emotional eat or I emotional workout.
Mm-hmm.
Or I go in between.
Yeah. See, as an alcoholic now, when it's not necessarily my feelings getting hurt, it's like me, a dramatic experience when I was young, and several of them. But I drink
Yeah.
to cover that up. And see, what people don't realize is whether it's food, whether it's porn, whether it's whatever it is, we're filling that void with something else.
Yeah.
But at such a young age, to where if it's not addressed, do you know what I mean? You keep carrying that.
Right.
You keep carrying that.
At 4 years old, I didn't realize what was happening.
Yeah.
I didn't know what rape was, or heck, even what sex was at that point.
Yeah.
I was 4.
Right.
But it was just, you find something that your body latches onto, and it's like a leech, and it feels good, and that covers the pain up.
Right.
And that's what I hate about so many people today. Not that I hate people, but just that they always wear that mask of, I'm fine, everything is going great.
Yeah.
And it's, no, why are you saying it's fine?
Yeah.
It's not.
The number one thing I tell people is if you're going to start being honest, when somebody says, how you doing, say, I'm struggling. That's because we're struggling every day. But you're exactly right. We shut the door before the conversation even begins. How you doing? I'm just fine. Fine, I'll keep going.
And it's the happiest people that are the hurting the most.
Yeah. And now on this food journey, I guess. Now, when did it get out of hand as far as?
Right at 10.
10?
Yeah, 9, 10. I started putting weight on like crazy. All through high school, I was 230 pounds. That was the heaviest that I weighed. I really would just eat to eat, and it was like...
But was it filling that void too?
It was.
Because, you still haven't talked to anybody, have you?
No.
By this time, by your 10, 11, 12. So now you're 8 years into it.
8 years into it.
Confused.
Not knowing what to do.
Mad.
Yeah, upset.
And a lot of guilt that you feel like it's your fault.
It's my fault. I should have done something, feeling. So I'm just going to eat to cover up.
Right. And seeing the people out there that's going to possibly watch this, their children sitting there looking right at them, saying, I'm just fine. God only knows what they just went through the day. That's why it's so important to get it out, right? If you could go back, if we could all go back, that's what we all say. But see, being young, you're scared. You're scared because of everything that's going on.
And you don't want it to be your fault.
No.
And you think that way.
Yeah, and did you feel like some of that you're like, is this supposed to be normal? You know what I mean? Like, is this life? Because we have an intuitive feeling within us.
America makes things so normalized and so happy-go-lucky that people are afraid to talk.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
More communication.
More communication.
Less prescriptions.
You have a prescription for your pinky toe when it hurts.
Yeah.
And they want to give you this medicine. Oh, well, that's not working, so let's take this medicine and this medicine. And thankfully, it never got to the point to where I was taking medicine. But it got to the point of where food was taking my body.
Yeah.
And I was killing myself slowly.
Was you obsessing over it?
I was.
The sugar and stuff?
Not so much sugar. I've never really been a sugar eater.
Yeah.
Mine has always been just like carbs. Like, I love my carbs.
Chips and stuff?
Chips, bread, pasta.
Did you ever get to throwing it up or anything?
I didn't throw it up. What started my anorexic journey was my dad got cancer in 2015. That was, I was going to college, not planning on going to college. That's when he died. 2013 was his cancer.
Okay.
That was senior year, you know, planning on graduating high school, what should have been a really like joyous time turned into be one of the most darkest time of my life.
So now what's happened from 4 to 8 to 10
And
to graduation?
has all now,
That whole gap, you still haven't really talked to anybody, have you?
no,
Wow.
because
You need a Purple Heart, child. How many of y'all out there do the same thing? You don't say nothing. You know, I mean, we're looking at, and anybody that's taken psychology and studied the brain knows traumatic events like that early in life affect human beings for the rest of their life. And unless it comes out of them to talk about it, then there's nothing going to happen, because if we throw medication on this individual, they're still going to be in thinking about it in their subconscious. The scar is always there, but it's our problem, our duty to talk and get this out, you know, because now, wow, I mean, I can't even imagine that it's going from there to there to there, and then still, bam.
And even before my dad got cancer, it was a year before that, I was molested. I had somebody in my family look at me and tell me if I were a guy, I wouldn't want to date you or have sex with you because you're fat and ugly. That came from a grandfather. So not only am I dealing with the 4-year-old rape to, you know, to basically a teenager being told you're fat, ugly, worthless, to suicide at 8 years old. And I tried suicide many times, whether it be the knife or suffocation, because I wanted to end it all. You know, I don't have a purpose. I never will have a purpose.
And you continually wore that mask every day.
Yeah, I'm fine. Everything is great.
And then the senior year, this hits.
Senior year, Dad gets cancer. And I got a stomach ulcer. Because I was stressed with senior year trying to pick a college. Dad is stage 4 colon cancer. You know, and he never had symptoms. Never had symptoms. They did testing on him. 17 of the 32 lymph nodes were cancerous. And it was stage 4. Tumor was the size of the softball. He found that out through a kidney stone at the emergency room all night. So here I am being hit by an 18-wheeler and dragging, and then dealing with everything from
The past.
the past. And I starved myself for 4 months. I had a stomach ulcer. I was starting to pass blood.
Did you try to hide that?
No,
went to the
I
doctor?
couldn't. Like, I literally could not hide it. I tried to for like a week or two, and then the pain was just,
So what, did you just stopped eating completely?
I stopped eating. I was losing 6 to 8 pounds a week. They did a scope on me, and they did a colonoscopy, and my mom said, while you have her back there and drugged up, go ahead and do one down her throat. Doctor said, we don't normally do that, but since, you know, she's 17, because I graduated when I was 17, she said, or the doctor said, well, go ahead and do that. You're the mom, will listen. Did a scope going down my throat. The x-ray came back, and you couldn't see my stomach. It's so much blood was in my stomach. You couldn't even see. All you could see was blood on the x-ray. So here I am dealing with this on top of everything else.
Well, it finally
And-
started coming to an end. All the hiddenness of the mask. Think about how many different personalities you're displaying through all this.
Oh,
Because anything traumatic is going to create a different kind of
personality.
disorder, and it does. People don't realize that. You know, scars, the terror that we go through, a lot of it. People don't realize that we wear so many, and over so long, you're wearing all this up here. It is so heavy, and we ain't got it. We're not strong enough to carry that.
Oh.
We can't carry it, you know. And then, but once you get 4 months into anorexia, what happens? You almost die, right? Get close to it?
I got close to it. The gallons of water, I would drink 3 of those a day. And I started out eating like twice a day. And then it went down to once a day. And then it went down to just drinking water. And I went to the emergency room one night. My dad took me. And doctor comes in and he looks at me and this is all he says. He says, next time I see you, you're either going to be in a body bag or you're going to be in here on tubes fighting for your life. You choose. He said, your body is shutting down right now.
Did you open your mouth then and talk about some certain things? Or did you choose to change and start talking to, because you can't just open your mouth to anybody.
Yeah.
It's hard if you've never done that before. The hardest thing to do is to open our mouth and say, before I could do that, I need help.
Right.
Especially from family, and because, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird, and it's very odd, and that's why we have to seek other, But the process, that we go through from there to there to there, and now you're in the hospital and the doctor's telling you got 2 choices. You can live or die.
Yeah.
And then, of course, your choice was to live,
Right.
And then what was your out?
My dad looked at me and he said, this stops today. He said, I don't care if we're at the mall and your mom and I have to feed you. He said, it stops today. And so they went behind my back and got people to watch me eat, and they had to report to my parents.
That's one way of holding you accountable. If you've got the resources, do it. Do it.
No better way than for your parents to, be like, hey, let me know when she's eating, blinded to it,
Yeah.
I was in counseling for a while about my dad's cancer and just the journey, and talked about some of the stuff in the past. But I also realized at one point that God had a purpose for me. And one night I just remember sitting there and being like, I'm done with it all.
Well, you'd been through, you was beat up.
I was beat up. I wrote a letter to the boy that had raped me. I wrote a letter about everything that had happened. I wrote a letter. I wrote.
That's emotional bleeding on paper. That's what we do.
And I remember one night, my mom had a fire going. And I just remember, I thought, this is it. And I went and I ripped those pages out and threw it in the fire. I forgave the boy that had done that to me. I'm Facebook friends with him now. I forgave him, and I said, you know what? I said, I wasn't the one that took that away from me. I didn't willingly do it. You chose to take that from me. I said, that's okay. I hope he finds peace. The suicide was very selfish of me, and I'm thankful that God did not let that knife go through me. The people that had made fun of me and had told me all that stuff, I realized they have problems. They need the help. They were doing that because they were trying to cover their problems up.
And a lot of it's created.
Yeah.
This day and age, people don't realize that we, as children, with this technology, our conscious and our subconscious is hit with so much garbage that over time it's normalized. They talk about raping women on songs.
Yeah.
So, and that's real. And they do it in the movies, and it's all generated, it's created to...
It's like when I was working the other day, I was at cash register, and a guy came in and was waiting for his food. And he and a friend were talking about they would pay each other for a girl. And I sat there.
Out loud.
Yeah. And I sat there And I'm just like, how can you even talk about pain for a girl?
Yeah.
It's so normalized, and we're so numb to it.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, oh, well, okay, that's normal now.
Yeah, and it's not like, if you had a couple of suggestions for parents, what would you tell them? What would you say? What would you suggest? I mean, they're going to be already involved with sports and stuff, but
Yeah.
what more communication?
More communication, for sure. Don't
Leave them in the rooms.
leave them in the rooms. I mean, don't be over them all the time.
Right.
But make it a point, because I never felt like I could go to my parents about anything. Make it a point to be open. Make it a point to where your kid says, hey, I need to talk to you. You don't flip out on them. Because
Yeah.
when somebody flips out on you,
Yeah.
when you tell them, they're going to shut that door immediately and think they're flipping out. Okay.
Then it's your fault again.
Then it's your fault again. Be open, and don't ever tell anybody you understand,
Yeah.
because you don't. Be open, listen to I'm fine, because the I'm fines turn into I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they continue to say I'm fine,
There's a problem.
there's a problem.
Yeah. More isolation, that's a sign.
More isolation.
Less communication, less of the mouths open, different. I mean, there's a lot of signs, but the thing is with the parents now is they have so many distractions themselves
Yeah.
with the medications that they're on, that a lot of times that they're just good where they're at, and they leave the children over there, and then that's why if you can't talk to your family, go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
If you went back, you could have said, you know what, I could have went over there and said something to them, but that's not the case. Just like a lot of us, you're scared, but hopefully, somebody down the road that can see this will say, I remember what this lady said, and I'm going to do what she was talking about.
Even if you don't feel like you can help your child, or your child doesn't feel like they can come to you, go to somebody that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there that want to help.
School counselors.
School counselors.
A lot of them, I guarantee. I talked to a few of them around here, and but very few kids open up.
Yeah.
Very few. Because what you shared, people shared within rehabs, and I've heard it in many of them, and they say that 70% of the people that have gone through that experience never talk about it. They walk around with that for the rest of their life.
Because it's normalized to do that, and it's normalized to not talk about that.
Yeah.
And then when you do talk about it,
Everybody
people are just like,
runs.
ah!
Yeah.
They scatter.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Sit here and listen.
Yeah. Open your mouth.
Be an open book.
Yeah.
Turn off the TV. Turn off your phone. Turn off electronics. Get the distractions out of the way. And say, hey, can we talk? Is there anything you need to talk to me about? We're always in such a hurry, busy go.
To go nowhere.
Yeah. And it's like,
Where are you going? I mean, the way you were working that gadget over there, we're going into outer space. Come on.
And so people don't realize how many distractions and how many things are normalized now.
And how many children are really suffering
Yeah.
because of some garbage, that's kids, they see it and then they act it out.
It's like when I taught my teen girls at church a few years ago, I said, don't sit here and tell me you're fine. I said, because I can see right through you. I said, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I said that, they just stopped and they were like,
She knows.
what?
She knows.
They're like, were you reading our diaries? I was like, no.
Well, I feel like this went good. It went very well. I don't feel like it was too long.
Yeah.
And what we can do is I'm sure some people will hit me up behind the scenes privately, and maybe we can do a part 2 or something.
Mhm.
Does that sound good? You want to
Yeah.
pray us out?
I can.
Hold my hand. Pray us
All right.
out.
God, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for for this opportunity for me to be able to share with you and with other people just about the stuff that I've had to go through, and now being able to open up and talk about it. I pray that somebody down the road will see this video and that they'll take that step of just opening up, whether it be with family or friends or whoever. I pray that you'll comfort everybody and give peace that people need. In Jesus' name, amen.
That's right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
That's right, everybody. You can go back to eating now. Yeah.